Book 19 of 2019 was Out of Your Mind by Alan Watts. Now this was an audio book which was basically a collection of Alan Watts's lectures over, a period of time. For anyone who's not heard of Alan Watts, he's kind of like an American, British American, like philosopher in the 70s, and he kind of has influences from Zen Buddhism, but he's not completely aligned with Zen Buddhism. But I kind of found when he was talking about things, about life, whatever, was that he said a lot of things which are quite common in Eastern religion, in Buddhism, but he had a kind of like his own modern slant on it, where he kind of questioned it and made it more applicable to kind of a modern day life. It was almost like he deviated at his own convenience to what, his beliefs were. Now, I've come across Alan Watts because if you look at inspirational quotes, his name comes up quite a lot. If you watch inspirational videos on YouTube and you need a little bit of a motivation pick-me-up, he's always on there, and they're always really kind of thought-provoking, really kind of wow, I didn't really think of it like that, or if you were thinking of it like that, it makes you remember that you've thought that before. So he was always really kind of one of my go-to people for quotes, or kind of a little video to kind of get me back on my centered path. So I was really disappointed by his lectures, because you'd be listening to it and there'd be a little nugget that was really thought-provoking and be like, wow, yeah, that's amazing. But then he'd just continue talking and it'd be nothing much else from what he'd already said. And so it was a bit I've just listened to all this, it was a 14-hour audio, I just listened to all this and there's not much that I'm getting from it. I don't know if that's because I'm familiar with Alan Watts, I've heard a lot of his things already, and a lot of the nuggets have already been quotes or have already been inspirational videos or whatever. So maybe I'm kind of already thinking like that and kind of already, open to what he kind of talks about. He talks a lot about the ego and kind of separating yourself from that. At least I think that's what he's... I actually tried to listen back to it to figure out kind of what he'd spoken about in the book, and I couldn't be bothered listening to it again. That's how boring I found it. And so, yeah, it was just not great. I think as well what I found was he was very repetitive, and it was I think he's obviously gone from place to place and said similar things, but then that made me feel like it was rehearsed, and you want to think that somebody like that is just speaking the truth as it comes to them, and that if they do repeat it, it's in a different form, but it wasn't. It's I don't know if you said that Lady Gaga quote about 100 people in a room, and if one, and Bradley Cooper or whatever, you literally see it, she says it the exact same way, it's completely rehearsed, it's completely orchestrated. That's not her truth, she's literally saying the same thing. But that makes it feel really inauthentic, because it's just you've just rehearsed. It just felt a bit false when I was listening to it. I was it was amazing the first time I heard it, and then when I kept hearing it I was oh, you're saying the same thing. And I also think the person that's put the lectures together in that audio book didn't think to themselves, oh, they've already said this, I'm not going to put that bit in, I'm going to cut that down, put a different bit in instead. Surely that would make a more enjoyable kind of collection of lectures, rather than keeping them in the kind of entirety, chop them up and put them together or whatever, like a abridged version, So another thing that really annoyed me was that Alan Watts just laughs at things that he says, and the audience is killing themselves laughing at something that's not even that funny or that outrageous. There's a lot of women's voices in the audience that screaming high pitched, it's annoying. And I just kind of thought he was almost trying to emulate the laughing Buddha. He does actually talk about the laughing Buddha, of how Buddha's supposed to laugh at everything and find life quite amusing. It was almost like he was trying to emulate that and be the laughing Buddha, and so I just thought that was a bit kind of unnecessary, really, to laugh at everything. Why is it something to laugh about. I don't know. Like, it is, you know, life is humorous, isn't it? When you look down at all the kind of little bits of it and how we take ourselves so seriously. But I didn't need you to laugh every 5 minutes after everything that you say. Like, he's laughing at himself and he's laughing at things that he's rehearsed. So it's not like it's just come to him and it's amusing. Like, he's purposely laughing at things, which I just felt was a little bit uncomfortable to listen to. My advice would be, look at the quotes by Alan Watts on Google Images, you know, do quotes, and look at the YouTube videos, because they're great, they're really good, and he does say a lot of things that are very wise and that do kind of like change your viewpoint and your perspective on things and make you think about things in a different way. So he is really good, but not to listen to in the full lecture. Like, I think you've got to take bits. It's like a buffet. You take the bits that are applicable to you and that help you, but most of it is like prawn crackers, you know. So yeah.